Hey everybody, Shane Presley here. Thank you for tuning in to another new episode of Rock Paper Podcast. A couple things I want to tell you about. Tuesday night, March 10th, we'll be out at Naked Vine for this month's singer-songwriter storytelling showcase. Bringing along Jonathan Brady of the Jonathan Brady Band, Vince Puzo of Morning Mountain, and Haley Woolbright. It's a $10 cover, 7 o'clock show. All three writers sitting on stools, playing their songs acoustically in a listening room setting, telling the stories behind all your favorites. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. If you haven't been out there yet to Naked Vine, you've been missing out. It's a cool spot. Again, we do the show once a month, every second Tuesday, so come on out there. But, swing by and visit my friends out there at Naked Vine in Chesterfield, serving up all kinds of wine, whiskey, tequila, and local craft beers. Big week this week, again, with the Songwriter Show on Tuesday. On Wednesday, March 11th, you can see David Terry out there. On Thursday, and every Thursday, is their vinyl spin night, Vinny's Vinyl Night out there. And on Friday, March 13th, Falling Martins. Saturday, March 14th, Circle the Wagons. And you can find everything else at nakedvine.net. Be sure to follow along on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Also, big shout out to High All Sound for their support, making this show sound great. Visit highallsound.com today. Also wanted to say thank you to Roughneck Beard Company and American Rambler. You can stop by their shop located in Maplewood, Missouri, right over there off of Manchester. They have all sorts of wonderful beard products, from your beard oils, beard balms. They even have this junk powder for your junk and all kinds of great stuff going on over there. So stop by and visit them or shop online 24/7 at roughneckbeardcompany.com and use my code RPP15 today for an exclusive 15% off your purchase. So big thanks to them and their support. Also, if you haven't yet, I do have some brand new stocking caps still available. I have some ball caps. I got some t-shirts, all kinds of fun ways to represent for a Rock Paper Podcast. So if you'd like, if you'd be interested in any of that, or just want to say hi or anything, feel free to hit me up on the email, rockpaperpodcast@gmail.com. I would love to hear from you guys. Let me know what you've been listening to, what you think of the show, all that fun stuff. So, that's it for me. I appreciate you all for continuing to listen and support this show and telling the friends about it. So thank you so much for that, and I hope you have a great day. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Podcast is kind of like it's like a radio show that's not on the radio. It's on the internet. Does that make sense? Uh-huh. Yeah. That's also like my mom. It makes it sound more confusing, doesn't it? It sounds like this.
I'm Jimmy Day.
And I'm Jack Schurk.
And you're listening to the Rock Paper Podcast.
Rock Paper Podcast.
Scissors beat paper, paper covers rock. Rock beats scissors, Shane covers non-stop. Never know what new kind of guest that he's got coming at you. Live and direct on the spot. Could be rock, folk, country, or hip-hop, jazz. All kind of folks that he has. Could be an artist or a comedian to make you laugh on the
Rock Paper Podcast.
double-decker fudge round, rolling round town. Shane coming at you live and direct from ground zero. He's your hero, he's your bestie. Rock Paper Podcast with Shane Presley.
Rock Paper Podcast.
Hey, everybody. Shane Presley here, Rock Paper Podcast, coming to you from St. Louis, Missouri. Hanging out today with the guys of the Day at Night podcast, right?
Yep.
That's right.
Hey.
Date Night Pod.
Welcome to the show, guys. This is, I'm glad to be hanging here with you all today. Get to talk about the pod and some comedy and everything else. But you guys want to properly introduce yourselves for those listening?
I'm Jack Schurk. I'm the funny one on the show and the sidekick, I guess. the Ed McMahon to Johnny Carson over here.
Yeah, and I'm Jimmy Day, and I'm the host and star of the show. And Jack is just, along for the ride.
Right. Riding your coat.
Second banana? Is that what they call it?
Yeah, what they do now.
All right.
I like the way you guys do your show and the fact that it is modeled after late night television type of format. So it is it's fun to hear the lot more produced type of podcast compared to mine. I keep it very simplistic just because I don't have time and patience to deal with that stuff. But it's really a lot of fun to listen to your guys' show, and as you especially as you listen for a couple of them, you start getting on some of the running jokes and some of the different things, and so it's a really good time. So check that out. But I guess let's go back though, like how you two end up meeting and how the idea to even start a podcast comes around. And
well, we met doing stand-up, and I don't really remember. I think you just started sitting at the same table as I did, and I could not get rid of this dude.
Right.
And then we
real
became
negative
friends.
already here. Real negative. I thought it was. We probably met when you were smoking outside of the Funny Bone.
Oh yeah.
Or something like that, and then the friendship grew from there.
I don't know. I have no recollection of when I met Jimmy. I'll be 100%
I don't remember the
honest.
exact date.
How long have you done stand-up?
Been doing it about 5 years.
5 years? For real?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
How long have you been doing it? Like 6?
I don't know. It feels like a lot longer than you, but I guess not. I guess you've actually been doing stand-up longer than I have. Is that... What is today? The 2015?
Yeah.
And
You were doing it before I started.
I was looking through emails because I thought you might ask history questions about my
Jack
own
has
life.
a terrible memory.
I have a bad memory.
Right.
He doesn't know when he started comedy. He doesn't remember when we met. So,
No.
Well, pick a date, and then we'll put it on the record here. And then if you ever have questions in the future, you just come back and listen to it, and you're like, that's it. That's when I started.
okay.
Okay. All right. So I've got a date. I got a very complicated past. Some
Okay.
things I'll talk about. Some things I'll refuse to talk about. But I got a
filled it
date
out.
in here. 4/21/2015 is a recorded set. But I also did stand up 2 years before that for a half a year or something, and then quit, and then came back and started doing it again on this date.
Right.
So, future Jack, listening back to this, trying to figure out when you did stand up, we're going to go with 2013 and then 2015.
I did
Okay.
it once, actually, before. Well, I did it once and bombed, and then I didn't do it again for 2 years, and that's when the 5 years started. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
The 5 years started with the first time you bombed or after that?
After. I've been doing it steady for 5 years, so 7 years ago was the first time I did it.
Wow. Okay.
So what made you want to come back to it after a gap there?
I just kept writing and thought I actually had something worth saying at that time. I wanted to try it again since the first one didn't go well.
Where was the first bomb and how bad was it?
It probably wasn't as bad as I thought, but it was at Funny Bone, and it was a really small crowd, and I had no idea what I was doing.
Because I hear a lot of people, listen to enough comedy podcasting, and people will say, even though they bombed, they were still hooked after the first time. It was whatever it is, whatever about this, just being on stage and everything else, and so even that, they still want to come back and try it again next week and so on. So
I don't think we're in that boat.
right.
I mean, Jack hates to bomb. I mean, I hate to bomb too, but I don't know. It's there's a lot of people that just bomb all the time, and they don't seem to care. So
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I've heard a lot of those stories about famous comedians talking about how terrible they were when they first started. So part of it makes me try and keep a little bit more of an open mind to people that are just kind of terrible and keep chugging along at it, because there are people that started out shitty and then they are good now. Like I've seen people like that locally. But then I also question these like awesome famous comedians if they're just super hard on themselves and they really were never that bad. They're just like, oh yeah, I was terrible before I was, Dave Chappelle or whoever. Well, I think he claims that he was always good.
He probably always was.
Yeah.
He was good when he was like 17.
The one example I came up with was terrible, but somebody,
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I like to think that I'm kind of funny sometimes, like situationally. Like I feel like I come up with good stuff. I might be better at like writing it than actually performing stand. But like, I don't know. I feel like it'd be something to look into. But nothing about it ever is like said, hey, like you should try doing an open mic, or you should try doing this. And so I just got a podcast instead.
Now you'll never hear that from a comedian because there's too many of us. The podcasts have, like, I actually didn't even know how stand-up comedians became stand-up comedians until I started listening to Mark Maron's podcast in like 2010. And that was pretty much like his show when he first started, was like have on a famous, semi-famous to famous comedian and have them tell their story. And so then I was like, oh, so there's these things called open mics at comedy clubs. And I was like, do we even have a comedy club? And I looked up the Funny Bone and I was like, all right, I'll try it.
Yeah.
Why not?
Sure.
I was in a cubicle, one of the many cubicles I've spent half my life in. And I was like, maybe I could be a famous comedian and make a lot of money. And then I did it. And I'm like, there's no way I'm becoming a famous comedian. There's too many of them, and there are too many that are better than me. So, but it's still fun, And then you meet people like Jimmy. You start up your own podcast.
There, that's it.
Yeah, and then no one listens to it. But until now, because everyone that's listening to this, they're going to be like,
rock paper bump now.
Yeah, we're getting the rock paper bump, and then the Rogan bump is next, and who knows?
Hey, that's how it works, guys.
Yeah.
Yep. I have to make that joke. When you mentioned Chappelle and like when he came to town and did like 8 nights of the pageant or whatever, like or whatever, 8 shows or whatever it was, he did that run, and a bunch of our friends got to open up some of those shows, and one of them was Bobby and Jay Cox, and I made the joke about, yeah, well, he did the podcast, the next thing you know, he opened in for Dave Chappelle, so it's like that's how it works.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that's what happened, but that's what happened. So
yeah.
Well, I'll be looking at the Shayfits and the
Right.
pageant
Yeah.
upcoming shows.
He's probably due to come back. So
right.
Chappelle. You think one of us is going to get the Chappelle opener?
hey, man,
Yeah, I mean,
you just heard the story.
right.
So
Crazier things have happened, man.
Yeah.
But no, that was fun. I'm glad I went because I got to see Chappelle, but like at the same time, it was like also incredibly awkward being at that show because like it was like at jail or something. Like there were so many security guards like walking around, pacing the room, making sure nobody's recording and stuff. You felt like you were like being watched by like security guards the whole time and stuff, which we were. But it was just like just you feel like you didn't want to move because the other room would like grab you and throw you out of there and stuff. Yeah, it's like.
Was that before the little bags that?
Yeah,
they make people throw their cell phones in there before they walk.
Yeah, they didn't do any of that. They just told everybody, don't even pull your phone out of your pocket. Just leave it alone. And then, of course, like somebody's recording it, and then they grab them and throw them out the door and stuff. And it's like, so I don't know. It was really strange. It's just hard to like be, in a moment and engaged in the comedy and enjoying the show as the whole time you're like see people pacing around the whole time. It's just like,
yeah, I think those pocket things could be a good idea or something like that.
Yeah.
Because, people shouldn't be recording
Right.
and taking pictures and video and all that shit. But
I wish they would do the same thing at concerts too, though, because people like sit there and hold their phone up the whole time. And it's distracting. So
yeah, it's a weird place we're in right now with people and the relationship they have with their phones and wanting to capture everything. Because I don't know, I think it's probably worn out to talk about it, but it's like you're people taking pictures and videos of like fireworks and stuff, and it's
sure.
like, when are you gonna watch this?
Right.
Is it gonna be like wintertime and you're like, man, I'm really got a 4th of July vibe going on. I'm gonna pull out that video of the fireworks I took and watch it. I don't think anyone's ever watching these videos ever again.
It's like that channel during the winter that just has like a fireplace, going.
Yeah, the Yule log or whatever.
Yeah. It's the ambiance.
Yep.
That's why it's better to be a musician, because musicians don't have to worry about anyone recording their stuff. Like a comedian, maybe their joke gets recorded and then released prematurely, and people they think it's offensive, or
it's not done. They're just working on something,
and it ruins the whole joke. But meanwhile, there's bands that have been touring for like 30 years because they had one hit song,
right?
And people are like, let's hear it again and again.
Yep. So you guys been at this comedy thing for a while, and you guys met somewhere somehow and decided we need to team up and do a podcast.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
Pretty much.
I don't really remember how that even happened.
I think I might have brought that up because Jack had done a podcast in the past and had a lot of the equipment and know-how, and we were both kind of we were doing stand-up, but we weren't doing a whole lot else comedy-related, so thought it'd be fun to try out, a podcast, and we kicked around a few ideas, and we're still kind of kicking around some ideas. So.
Yeah.
Well, you can stream all the episodes right now on your whatever you're listening to this show. You can Apple Podcasts and Spotify and everything else. Get involved with the guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And but I was just listening. I finished up listening to it today. Your most recent episode with Andy Hamilton. That was a friend of my show. Also, I think we've done 2 of them now. And it was fun, man. Like I said, I enjoy the conversation. I enjoy what you guys do with the show. Like I said, just having all the, even like the games and stuff, and the way you introduce your musical guest and things like that. So it's a fun show for sure. So hopefully.
Thanks for the support and everything.
Jimmy's really the brains behind the operation,
right?
And the workhorse.
I got to do all the editing, which is a real pain in the ass. But I think it's got pretty decent production value for what it is. We get some funny segments and some musical guests and interviews and fake commercials and all that. So it's kind of different, I thought, for a podcast. But we're still kind of adding to it and trying to figure it out.
I'll give you the people out there listening the inside scoop, because I think these people want straight talkers.
That's what people tune in for.
They want the exclusive. So my last podcast, Spotting Waldo's Band Practice, that I still pay Lipson $5 a month to keep on iTunes and whatnot. So listen to that, and then maybe if it gets more listens, I'll teach Jimmy how to play drums, and we can start doing that podcast or something. But we put a lot of production into that show. That my former band and I did a lot of work on that one, and it was we just couldn't get anyone to listen to it, and it broke my heart. And so when Jimmy was like, let's do a podcast that's like the Tonight Show or whatever, I was immediately thought like, all right, I'll show up, but I'm not doing any editing or anything. So Jimmy really is
he does show up, though,
keeping things going as far as
he's a man of his word.
The production, the Kanye West interviews and all that stuff.
Right.
So I have to give him credit, but I just show up, and then the magic happens.
Sure.
So there's something to be said for that too.
That's true. That's true. We just did another. We recorded one the other night, and hopefully it'll be out in the next couple days. But it was me and my girlfriend went to California, so we kind of wrapped up what we did there, and she was the guest, Molly Ambergy, and
have you had her on your show? Mm-mm. She also does a podcast.
I don't think I know Molly. What's her podcast?
It's called Casually Molly.
Check it out.
Yeah.
That yeah. So are you guys like big fans of late night and Tonight Show and stuff, or is that or what did it just sound like a fun idea to do?
I've always kind of been a fan of late night. I like Conan, and
You just went to Conan.
yeah, I just went to Conan in California. That
Oh,
was really
nice.
cool.
Yeah. I did a Conan in Chicago when he was did a week up there,
Okay.
and yeah, I'm with you. I'm a huge fan, and I was like, well, this is it. Like he's coming close enough. I was like, I'll take a 5-hour drive to up there, and then hang out for the weekend, eat some pizza, and go to a Conan taping.
Was that the start of all that Team Coco stuff? Wasn't that right after he lost the Tonight Show? What's the one Carson or Leno used to do?
Yeah, Tonight Show.
The Tonight Show. I'm obviously not a huge fan of late night.
Yeah, he was. I think the Team Coco thing was going, and because I actually bought a shirt around that I wore to that a lot before that, and it's like a Team Coco shirt, and it's like Conan with like this big afro with a pick in it, and it made me laugh, and so. But
He does do some remotes every now and
Yeah.
then. He'll go to like San Diego or Chicago or New York or something like
Well,
that.
then-
So it could have been one of those.
right,
But
it was kind of like that because he did that. It was the TBS. He was on TBS at the
Yeah.
time, and he was doing the show then, and it was just the week in Chicago, and then I think it seems like now though he's been doing more of the like Idiot Abroad type of thing that he was him in all these foreign countries and stuff, and
yeah,
and those are hilarious too, just because it's just Conan being an ass somewhere, and so the one in Australia was really funny. Just I don't know if you guys watched that at all, but
Yeah, I've seen all those remotes.
Those are all real,
good.
yeah, for sure.
Totally, yeah.
yeah. We were just in California and it was free. We're like,
Right.
let's go check it out. We got tickets and it's a half-hour show now, so the whole thing was done in probably 20 minutes.
Who was the guest?
It was Diego Luna.
No
He
idea.
was in Rogue One, and he's on Narcos Mexico.
Okay, I've never watched either of those.
Seemed like a nice guy.
Who was the musical guest?
They didn't have one. They don't have musical guests anymore.
Yeah, they've cut it down. It's just like a one-on-one interview. Well, or Andy's sitting there too, but
Yeah.
so it's more like just Andy and Conan talking to a guest and for half an hour.
Sometimes they'll have a comic too, but usually it's just a guest for like 2 segments.
Yeah.
We got a Medal of Freedom. That was kind of cool because Trump gave one to, was it Rush Limbaugh or something?
Yeah, I think so.
So he gave everybody in the crowd one. That was kind of cool.
All right. Yeah, I think I can't remember who the guest was up there that when we were there.
What kind of pizza did you have?
Well, for a while there, I was going to Chicago a lot because it's like, again, it's close enough. A little weekend getaway. Me and my wife can go have some fun up there. We like going to the Shed Aquarium and stuff. And then like every time when we go up there, we'd always try different pizza. So I was like, I like Giordano's a lot. I like
Okay.
I had that.
Illuminati's. I like. So those are 2 that I typically go to mostly, but I always like to try something different too because maybe I'm missing out on something else great. So I try to work my way around the city and trying some others, but those 2 have never let me down.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard Lou Malnati's is what Chicago people that live there, they usually say that's the best deep dish. But I've also heard that real Chicago pizza is like this pub pizza that's like in between a thin and a thick crust, and it's cut in squares like emos. So,
All right.
I don't know if that's true or not,
It's
but
like
I
the-
hear things and I just
It's
repeat
the
them.
underground pizza of
Yeah.
Chicago.
Yeah, it's kind of like,
Because some of them do it like stuffed, and then some of them just do it the deep dish like type of thing. Like it's where it's like all the toppings are still on top, but some of them do it like where it's like a bit all sauce on the top there, and then like all your toppings are in the middle type of thing. So,
yeah.
but yeah, I don't know. They're all good. I mean, it's really hard to mess up a pizza. So
Yeah.
I like them all.
Yeah, I always say I love all pizzas like God loves all his children.
That Yeah, I'm not like super crazy about emos. Like, I'll eat it every now and then. Just something a little different, but it's not like my go-to for pizza.
Yeah, it's good, but it's a little pricey sometimes, and I don't know. I mean,
I found that if you didn't grow up eating it, then people don't like it.
Seems like out-of-towners don't like it at all.
Right.
Do you guys have a favorite of like the chain pizzas? Like Domino's, Papa John's, Pizza Hut.
I mean,
that variety
depends on, but for $5, you can't really beat a Little Caesars. Like those hot and readies are pretty solid.
Not a big fan.
I mean, like it's not. I'm not saying it's the best pizza by any means, but
it is cheap.
But for $5, if you get them fresh, they're actually not too bad.
Yeah,
I like it. And they have like the deep dish, and then they also have like, some of the other. Like I don't do the other ones, but their deep dish is pretty solid and I think it's like $8. And I'm like, so if you want to splurge and you do that, and it's not too bad. But
do they still have those breadsticks that used to be
the crazy
wonderful?
bread?
Yeah,
probably.
Yep.
I remember liking those. I haven't been to a Little Caesars in a long time.
I'm just saying, for cheap, it's really not too bad. It's like it's because even that, like, I don't know, Papa John's is probably the next up that I would like go to. Like, I don't really do Pizza Hut or Domino's very often. Like, those are usually not very good.
I think Pizza Hut would be my pick, actually.
Yeah.
Wow. I just grew up
at least
eating
mine
it a lot.
At least mine out where I'm at, like, it is not very good. And like, it's always like super thin crust, and then like, like you pick it up and just like it's just like, I don't know, just
floppy.
Yeah.
Go hand tossed or
right,
like stuffed crust if I'm going Pizza Hut.
Yeah.
I go Papa John's, but controversially, I go thin crust most of the time.
Okay.
I don't care that much about the garlic butter and the dipping the crust in it.
Yeah, I like supporting the locals though. Like, I'm a big fan of Stefanina's out there.
Oh yeah.
In Wentzville, we have one in Wentzville, and where I live, and that's sort of the St. Louis style thin crust and stuff, but it's pretty tasty.
It is good.
Have you ever thought about doing rock paper pizza cast and just doing all pizza?
I'm doing it right now, man.
Yeah.
Making dreams come true.
All right.
I did one with the Manis Brothers, kind of this hard, heavy blues rock band, and we ate pizza the entire time during the show, and just talking about different frozen pizzas that we liked and different things, and it was fun.
I'll ask you this. You don't have to answer if it's gonna upset the many people that have been on your show, but like, what are like the top 1 or 2 or 3 bands in St. Louis that you're like, these are the 3 that you should check out first?
Oh,
because I'm sure there's tons of them
Sure.
that you've interviewed and have been on your show, and you don't want to be like, you want to say all of them, but don't give me the cop-out answer. Give me like 2 or 3 bands that I should actually go check out. And you can think about it and answer at the end of the podcast if you want to. Well,
I'll tell you right now, a couple of my particular favorites that I think everybody should go listen to. One, Nick Gussman. He has a band, Nick Gussman and the Coyotes, that he plays, but he also does a lot of solo gigs. And put out a record called Dear Hard Times in 2018. I think it was late 2018, I believe. And one of my favorite records ever. Really, really good stuff on there. It's kind of more...
Nick Gussman. G-U-S-M-A-N.
Yes.
Okay.
He's more of a singer-songwriter, storytelling folk, kind of country music and stuff, but the band kind of gets a little more rocking in there and stuff. But on the record, there's a lot of different things. But anyway, really, really good stuff. He's one of my top favorite artists. And I would say Brother Lee and the Leather Jackals are good friends of mine also. Really fun, like hard classic rock type of sound, kind of a...
Okay.
Sounds good.
Kind of like a Black Sabbath, their type of rock and roll, like that 60s
Nice.
rock and roll stuff. Something like that. And they're a really good time. And let's see. I don't know. I'll say, I mean, a lot of people know them and stuff, but Funky Butt Brass Band. They're one of my
Heard of them.
They're one of my go-to favorites for sure.
I saw them on a New Year's Eve one time at the Broadway Oyster Bar.
Yeah, they do that a lot. They do. They do everything. They're all very, very popular and get called for a lot of big gigs and stuff. Or I got to play the like when the St. Louis had that blues outdoor winter classic game. They got to play there. They got to play at the Enterprise Center when the Blues had the Stanley Cup run and stuff and all that. So they got to do some really cool events like that and kind of high profile things. And then
get a hold of their agent.
Yeah.
And start doing some high profile stuff.
Yeah. But they're a ton of fun. They're all good buddies of mine, and they just put out a brand new record called Onward, and it's available everywhere now. So check that out.
All right,
I'll check it out.
There it is. There's my 3. There's a little variety for you too.
Nice.
And if you're another St. Louis band that didn't make the list,
better luck next time.
Tough titties. Better luck next time, I guess.
Yeah.
Work on that new album.
Yep, that's it. I want to mention also, being that you two do comedy, we do have a date for Jimmy. You can catch Jimmy Day live March 7th at Troy, Missouri's Elk Lodge, and that'll be with Andy Hamilton that we mentioned, and J.C. Sabala, another friend of the show, and Christine Stedman.
Yep.
So
should be a good time.
Yeah, so come on.
Tickets are still available, apparently, if you're in the Troy area.
So I think that's kind of cool that Andy's been doing that kind of stuff. I mean, I know he's been doing his O'Fallon Out Loud shows and stuff, and then those Troy, that show in Troy and stuff. Like there's not a lot of entertainment at all out there, but there's especially not a lot of comedy. So it's kind of fun that he's doing some of that kind of stuff, bringing comedy to some of these shows in towns where there's not a lot of things going on. So
yeah, it should be a good time.
Yeah, Andy's really become the comedy czar of the O'Fallon, Wentzville area,
right.
Because he's also on the website picture for the open mic at the Backdoor Comedy Club, and then he inherited that O'Fallon show and kept it going from Sean Arredondo, and now he's doing Elks Lodges.
Is that one of his credits when you guys introduce him and stuff? Like, you can see him on the cover photo for Backdoor Comedy.
No, but they do have a TV at that club that kind of rolls through promotions. And every time I see him up there, I'll be like, "Hey, Andy, you're up there.
You're on
Look
TV,
at that,
man.
Andy, you're famous." So I'll be annoying him with that for as long as they keep doing that.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I do think it's cool though. So big shout out to Andy for keeping that all going out there and bringing the comedy to the people.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll have some other shows just coming up. We just don't have anything planned at the moment.
Sure.
I don't know about you, but
yeah,
if we get asked to do something, we just do it.
A 6-month hiatus from stand-up comedy, from June to the beginning of January. I did no stand-up comedy.
Just getting burnt out, or
yeah, I had some other things going on in my life. A lot of people think that I don't have much going on, but I do. Okay, I'm not as big a loser as you guys think I am.
Not one.
He almost beat Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah, I almost got to 99% on Red Dead Redemption, so that's something. But I had other things too. So I just kind of got. I'm trying to ease my way back in to stand up. I was a regular host at the Funny Bone,
right,
for probably 3 years. I was the best they had. Maybe one of the best of all time up there, hosting shows. I'd really like to feature this year for the people that don't know their comedy terms, which you've had a lot of comedians on, so I'm sure most of your listeners do. But that's the person who gets to do 25 minutes in the middle of the show and doesn't have to accidentally forget the headliner's name or things or their credits or things like that. Those are nightmares that I've had in the past where I go, "All right, you guys ready for your headliner? Give it up for..." And then silence. Yeah, I almost forgot Brendan Ayer's name, but I pulled it out of there.
Yeah.
I barely got it, and I've never forgotten anyone else's name.
I that's probably something I would do because like I'm pretty good with like just random trivia facts type of stuff, especially around music and whatever pop culture stuff. And then all of a sudden, like I'll like in the middle of doing this show, I'll say something and I'll go to pull like a reference, and that's when I'll forget everything I was talking about. And I'm like, why is I could, you ask me any other time, I'd probably just tell you right there and then. But like as soon as I go to think about it, that's when my brain goes blank, and then it's like, I can't think of that band's name or that guy's name or whatever. So
yeah, it's easier than people think to go up on stage and completely blank about.
I'm terrible with names. Like I just hosted the open mic at Funny Bone last week, and that was 17 names, and I only knew maybe 10 of them, or at best. There's a lot of people I didn't know that night, so I was just trying to remember them all, and it's part of it for sure.
Yeah. I mean, when you host, you're up there and you're like, you do your 10 minutes or whatever, and you're like, you were trying to remember all your jokes and everything and remember what you were going to say up there at the beginning to get things started. And then they all laughed, and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe they bought it. These people are idiots. I fooled them. And then it's time to say that this person's been on HBO and their new special is on Netflix. Give it up for,
Tim Meadows.
Jimmy Schubert or whoever, yeah.
All right.
So,
yeah.
I would like to be in the middle, where I go up there, I do my jokes, maybe I tell someone to shut the hell up, and then I get out of there, and I have a drink or something,
That is a sweet spot.
That is.
Yeah.
Sweet spot.
Yeah.
That's what they call it. Doing that and being on this podcast.
Right.
In the sweet spot.
Yeah, that's what I'm changing the name of the show to that right now.
That is a really good name for a podcast.
Yep.
We're in the sweet spot. Hey there, guys and gals. Thanks for tuning into the sweet spot. It's pretty good, right?
Yeah, man.
Dumping this guy.
Yep, there you go.
It's going solo.
Jack at Night. Somebody how interview porn stars.
Sounds a little off.
I wrote it down.
Yeah.
And I wrote the title down, so I'm still considering it.
All right. What? So both of you kind of, talking about hosting and things. Do you have any tips or advice that you learned along the way over the years now that you want to pass along for anybody looking to start comedy or host, or thinking about getting to that point where they're ready to host some shows?
I have a piece of advice for people that are in the thick of doing comedy. Like maybe you're 1 or 2 years in and you're starting to feel comfortable, because I just learned this lesson from taking a break. Is that sometimes when you're like, all right, I got a good 10 or 15 minutes going and now I'm trying new stuff every week, you should not forget how much preparation you used to put into a bit before you would try it in front of people when you were first starting, because you were nervous and you were worried about forgetting things. So you'd probably practice it in your car and maybe in the mirror a couple times, and while you're doing laundry, and you would have things the way you wanted to say them kind of down and whatnot. And then your bit would go better because you're not stumbling over words and you're not trying to think of what comes next in the bit. So you're able to put more of the performance into it and be in the moment a little more instead of worrying about memorizing things. So when I quit stand-up at the beginning of June or whenever, I was going on stage with just kind of a loose idea of what I wanted the bit to be and then try to fill in the blanks, and I was just bombing. Like, things were not going as well as I wanted to. Then when I came back to stand-up in January, I was nervous and stuff. I hadn't been nervous to get on stage in a long time, so I'm like practicing my old bits and stuff, trying to make sure that I remember them and everything. And then when I started trying new ones, even though the jokes aren't even that good, they're going much better because people aren't looking and listening to a fumbling, stumbling idiot that looks like he's nervous on stage.
Right.
So I would just say, if you're in the groove, if you're in the sweet spot, so to say.
Sure.
You know, and your bits aren't going as well as you're expecting them to, maybe you need to put a little more work into them on the front end before you take them on stage and start presenting them and playing around with them.
Okay.
But I don't know what I'm talking about. Why are you asking me questions?
I don't know.
Is this a podcast or something?
You said that with authority, like you really knew.
Yeah, I know. I learned it.
I agree, though. I mean, I would say probably for somebody newer that hasn't done it, you got to write. You got to know what you're going to say, and you should write actual jokes and have them down. Because some people say, "Oh, I want to try stand up," and they've never written anything down on paper. Like, just think they can go up there and bullshit for 4 minutes, and it'll go well. But
Not the case.
I don't know. I don't know what the secret is, but
Right.
good luck, I guess.
All right. Do you guys recall your first jokes? The first one you wrote and tried out at the open mic or anything?
Yeah, I could do it word for word right now.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I'm serious. I won't, but I seriously could. It was this whole thing about, I had a callback built in and everything. I did very well my first time doing stand-up.
Okay.
I was like, I got this. This is easy. And it was this whole thing about how I wanted to bang my friends' moms to win arguments, not because I found their moms attractive. And then at the end of the bit, my dad and I were having an argument, and he was like, "I banged your mom." So in out of context, it sounds perverse and not funny.
You
But
probably should have just done it.
I probably should just email you a
That's
recording and have you slide that in there.
There you go.
I don't do the joke anymore because I am. I think I'm too old to be talking about banging my friends' moms because they're all like grandmas now. But have you ever had JC Sabala on the show?
Yeah.
He's going to be on the show Jimmy's on. He actually, he always loved this joke for some reason. Like a lot of times he would come up to me to say hello at the club by like whispering in my ear like, "Hey, I fucked your mom." Which, I thought was funny because of the joke. People listening at home I should
Maybe
stop
he did.
worrying about. Hey,
I mean,
he might have.
He seems like the kind of guy that could probably bang a lot of moms. So, like,
But my point is not that we gotta stop talking about JC banging my mom. The point is that he actually gave me a bunch of tags and stuff in a way that he thought I should rework it because I told him like, I don't know, man, I can't be talking about banging people's moms. It just feels like the bit doesn't feel like me anymore. But he gave me some workarounds, so I need to put it together and try it.
all right.
But that's another piece of comedy advice. I guess
it is.
don't ever think a bit is dead unless you're some famous guy that's putting them on specials and records and whatever. Then you should probably stop doing it. But if you think a joke is
Unless you're-
like dead or something, revisit it and have a friend look at it or something, and maybe you'll be able to dust it off, and then you got 3 minutes that's back in those minutes are precious.
Yeah. Unless you're Ron White and you can do that tater salad joke for
Yeah.
career, man. I mean, yeah, I love his other stuff. I mean, he's got good stuff, but I mean, like, I watched like some old special of his, and he did that tater salad thing, and then I saw like when that blue collar was huge, and he did that, and then he did there too, and I was like, I realized he's been telling that same damn joke for 20 years now, like, and it's kind of, there's a lot of guys though that can get away with that stuff, like.
Do you think he's on the spectrum of he just keeps doing it, or do you think he's on the spectrum where like he's at a show and fans are like, "Do tater salad,"
Well,
and if he doesn't do it, they're gonna be pissed.
Yeah,
off.
I think there's a lot of that too. I think because like I saw Brian Regan, and he's like, I mean, he did like a whole hour of new material when I saw him, but everybody's yelling their favorite jokes that they want to hear. And I don't know, for me, it's like in comedy, that's weird, like, because like, again, like we talk about with the band, you want them to play the hits.
Yeah.
And it's like, and if they don't, then you get mad. But for comedy, I feel like if I do the same jokes that I already know the punchline to, I feel a little cheap and,
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Like, I went to see Seinfeld the last time he was in town, and he was funny, but I had heard 60 or 70% of what he was saying already.
right.
And he's one of those guys that's been doing a lot of the same material. And I know, like, Jay Leno, he's never done a special, because he doesn't want to burn
Right.
material. I don't know if he still does a lot of his old stuff or he just wants to tour and do that kind of stuff, but I
Yeah.
mean, whatever, I guess. But,
Well, I thought the way Regan handled it was pretty well because like he told those people like basically, hey, shut up, and I'll do it at the end we do like an encore greatest hits kind of thing, and he had people holler out a couple of jokes and he did those so.
yeah,
I don't know.
that's the way to do it
Yeah.
right there.
It was a
Gary
blessing
Goldman
and
did
a
it like
curse.
that.
But it's weird, like people are like singing along with him, like they're singing their favorite song, and it's like
You already know it. It's
why is it so funny to you if you already know the punchline to all of
Yeah.
it and stuff? But people seem to like that. But I think with something like, but I did see like Bert Kreischer also, and he does the Machine story, which is a classic.
Yeah.
But he also updated it for us in the room, so it wasn't like verbatim from the special. He told us like some stories that had happened since then, like something like talked about how when that clip went on the internet on Facebook and like went viral like overnight, like he started getting like some girl from his class that he's talking about being in, like sent him a message and stuff, and like all these like different stories like that happened in association with the story that he was telling, the Machine story and stuff. So
How long is the Machine story? Like 10 minutes?
I mean, on the special, it's like 15 minutes or something like this, or something
Did
like
he
that.
abbreviate the original story just so people knew, or did he do the whole thing?
I think he did he did a lot of it. I mean, maybe abbreviated a little bit, but he still kind of told the whole thing. But yeah, it was fun.
The next open mic, Jack, I'm just going to yell out, "Hey, Jack, do the one about fucking your friend's moms."
Do Pop Tarts.
I wasn't going to do this one, but this one's for Jimmy. But no, I don't know. It's fun though. Like I said, I think I do. I mean, I still enjoy listening to old comedy records and stuff. A lot of the, a lot of my favorite material. But it's like for when I go see it live, though, I think it's always a lot more fun to see something I haven't seen.
Yeah, I agree.
I saw Cosby in Kansas City before
Controversial.
all of the rape stuff. For lack of a better
If
way to
anybody
put it.
didn't know,
Yeah. For
Go on, Jack.
Why did I even bring it up? But he did pretty much all the same stuff. The bit about the dentist and everything. And what's funny is that the Westboro Baptist Church was outside of the Fox type, whatever the Kansas City equivalent is to the Fox, wherever we were. They were across the street protesting for this concert, I guess, or this show, this Cosby show, because I guess they just go to wherever people are.
Wherever there's a good time, they try to ruin it, right?
For anyone who doesn't know that's that church that holds up the sign that's like God hates fags, and like they protest the funerals of soldiers and shit. But in hindsight, it's kind of funny because like, well, yeah, you're kind of right about Cosby. Like nobody saw that coming. But otherwise, they're bad people, I guess. So. All right, Shane. Let's direct this into a different direction.
it's quite a story.
Yeah.
That was a bomb. That's what feels like a bomb on a podcast.
I kind of feel I didn't get the Westboro Baptist Church, but I did go to that Louis C.K. show and stuff when he was in town, and I kind of feel like that a similar kind of thing. It's like
I just saw like a couple people standing outside with signs when I went. It could have been different on different nights, but
yeah.
This was when he was at the Funny Bone. The last time he was in town.
He did whatever the theater show, and then he came and did the Funny Bone afterwards, and I went to that.
Oh, that's the one you were talking about.
yeah, he's been here after that because we went to that.
Right.
That was like a year ago, maybe.
I wasn't able to get tickets to the
latest one.
The one that you're talking about where he did Kiel Center or Chaffetz or whatever.
I saw him there.
But I told the manager, I went up there and I was like, I gotta just peek my head in there for 5 minutes. So he let me go in there and watch it a little bit.
Joe Mackey opened up that show, and it was a lot of fun. Joe's one of my favorites to watch.
Yeah, I just saw him last weekend when he was at Funny Bone. He's hilarious.
Yep.
He's getting better too. He's always been funny, but he's getting even better than he was.
Right.
So I was asking you though, which Louis show, because were there protesters at that one you went to?
No, it wasn't
at that
protesters, but I just I feel kind of weird about it now, just because after all the allegations and and all that stuff like that, it's just like, I mean, I don't know. I think people should have saw that one coming though. I mean, like he's kind of always been a creepy kind of pervy guy and stuff like. So I think it was a lot different with Cosby, because he was like literally America's dad type of guy, and then like you realize he's actually not a good guy at all.
Yeah. I heard he's killing in jail though.
Oh yeah.
Is he in jail even?
Yeah.
He is? Okay.
You really sent us down a path here, Jack.
I know.
You
That's
son of a
what
bitch.
happens. I just say stuff and then
Yep.
I don't know.
Well, yeah. So, do you guys recall the podcast that got you wanting to do a podcast? Because, like, I was telling Jack a little story before we got going about, for me, it was meeting Jay Larson at the Funny Bone. And that, I was already a fan of his comedy and stuff, met him that night and things. And he said, hey, check out my show, The Crab Feast. And then I was like, I was hooked. I started listening every week, every Tuesday. And
Tuesday.
Yep. And I became a big fan of what they were doing, and it was that one, and then About Last Night podcast with Brad Williams and Adam Ray. I listened to a lot also, and so it's pretty wild that I eventually got to meet Ryan and Jay at Blueberry Hill, and then I've had Adam Ray and Brad Williams both on this show and stuff. So it's been pretty cool to get to meet some of my favorites and stuff too doing it.
Yeah. How long you been doing it now?
This May will be 6 years I've been doing my show.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, for me, I guess the podcast I first started listening to when it was kind of a new thing was Bill Burr's Monday Morning Podcast, and lately I listened to Your Mom's House quite a bit, and You Made It Weird, and listen to Mark Maron some, and I don't know. There's a lot of good ones out there. There's like a million podcasts now, but you got any favorites, Jack?
The ones that made me want to start doing stand-up were WTF, just because that was like enlightening to know how people became stand-up comedians. And then there's another podcast called You Know What Dude with Robert Kelly, who's like a New York comedian, and their podcast studio is upstairs from the Comedy Cellar in New York. And his whole thing is like he would have like younger comedians that hadn't quite hit yet. Like he would always have Dan Soder and Joe List on there before they were headliners even.
Yeah, and those guys are great.
Yeah. So I listened to that podcast, and they were all just busting balls and stuff, and I was like, that seems like a fun thing to be a part of.
I got to know, not like personally or anything, but I got to know Robert Kelly through Dane Cook when he did that tour with all those guys.
Tourgasm thing?
Yep. And so that was I like those kind of things too, those specials where, obviously people tuned in because of Dane, but you also discovered, a lot of other great young comics getting going. So.
Yeah, that's really how I discover most of the podcasts that I like. It's just branches from other podcasts that I listen to,
Yep.
But there isn't really a podcast that made me want to start doing one. The guy that played bass in my old band was like, hey, I want to do a podcast, and I want it to be like our band plays music as like the house band, and then we do skits and joke around and whatnot. And I was like, all right, cool, whatever. And so we did that, and then I just kind of inherited this knowledge of how to record things and had a bunch of stuff. So I was like, I think I'd let Jimmy and probably a couple other people know, like, hey, I've got podcast stuff if anyone wants to do a podcast. So we started doing it. Yeah. I think that's probably what happened, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Like, I knew you were doing it in the past and listened to your podcast, and we sat down and we kind of just bullshitted a couple times about ideas and stuff, which didn't really amount to much. But, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Did you ever get discouraged in your? I get discouraged very quickly.
I mean, yeah, it happens.
Like when you had 10 listeners for the first, exaggerating, but
Sure.
like no listeners the first year, and then it's like, well, I'm still gonna keep doing it, and then 6 years later,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I never really worried too much about numbers. Like, I did it more for myself. Like, I have fun doing it either way. So I get to meet all kinds of cool people around the city. I get to have fun hanging with different people. I get to, a lot of nice other perks and things, CDs and shirts or whatever from bands and concert tickets and stuff, whatnot. Things like that. And like, but I just, always enjoyed just like having a conversation with people and having, especially when we live in such a digital era where everybody, everything's text messages or Facebook or whatever, where I can actually sit down and have a conversation, get to know somebody for real. And so, but yeah, no, I mean, I've taken some breaks and things. You just kind of get burnt sometimes where you got to like take a step back and recharge and, definitely happens, but I had a friend ask me the other day, like what I wanted to do with it and like when I'm going to be done kind of thing or whatever. And I was like, I don't know, whenever it stops being fun, that's when I'll stop. But so still
Very positive. You got to take all that in, Jack.
Yeah,
You
I got
gotta-
trouble being posive. I'm a very glass half empty guy.
well, and I don't.
I'm actually like the glass is empty guy.
Which is part of the doing this too is like getting to meet people and kind of discovering like different personalities and like learning how to work with different people and things. But like not saying all of them, but a lot of comedians are that way though. Like some of these, I've had really a hard time sometimes with some various comedians on the podcast because they are like personally in their real lives, they're very depressed and very, sad people. And then it's like, it's just kind of a weird thing that they spend their life making everybody else laugh on stage and they can be this, character essentially. And then like once they're off stage, like talking to them is very difficult sometimes. Like,
Yeah.
a lot of them are very socially awkward and depressive and stuff. And like, so it's just.
Has anyone ever cried on your podcast?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I was saying that as a joke. I guess you got into some.
It wasn't a comedian, but it was a musician, and like.
I could see that.
I know.
I was thinking comedians.
But I got like I don't know. I kind of felt flattered in a sense. I guess I don't know, like that he was that comfortable enough to where like it was our first time meeting, and then he opened up and started crying, and I was like, damn, I tapped into something there. But he was.
If one of us start crying, you got to cut it out.
Yeah. I don't have that technology, so. But I don't know. Like I said, it's that's one thing I've always found with the comedians though. Like, I mean, not that that's anything new. I mean, like it's been very well documented that many of them have, depression issues and stuff, and and everything else. So.
Yeah, it seems to be the case with some. I mean, seems like it's either that or the complete opposite, where they're, nice to everybody on stage and off stage.
Right.
But I don't know. I don't know why that's a thing.
If you weren't married, do you think you'd be getting chicks from your podcast? Oh my God, it's Shane from Rock Paper Pod.
I don't think so, but
No.
I did meet a girl once at it was a show at the pageant. I think I can't blanking on what show I went to go see that night, but it was like a rock show, and this girl like walks past me, and she like literally like was like shaking, like, oh my God, you're Shane Brett, and I'm like. I was like, is this for? I was like,
Were you just talking to a buddy? And she's like, I know that voice.
yeah, like I was thinking about my buddy Tom, and she like, was trying to pass through us and then recognized me, and I was like, and that's like the weirdest reaction I've ever got from something. I'm nobody. I'm just a guy that likes music and comedy, and like for her to like have that kind of reaction to like seeing me, it was very weird, and. I don't know that I would be able to get chicks from doing it. But
Probably could have got that one. It sounds like.
maybe one.
Maybe that one. You know, this just gave me. I'm always trying to come up with $1 million idea, and they're mostly terrible. But what if you started a service where, like, you wanted to make your artsy performance friends feel good about themselves? Then you hire someone, the service, and we send up someone and go, "Hey, are you Jimmy Day? Do you do comedy? Yeah, I've seen you. You're so funny. I love you. I'm gonna follow you on Twitter, and you let me know next time you're doing it so I can come see you." You know what I mean? And then you're walking around like you're on cloud 9 all day.
So so you would hire this person then?
Well, I don't know who would be the nice enough person.
Well, yeah, I mean, it would definitely be an ego boost, but I'm not gonna hire them.
Maybe you hire them for yourself if you want to impress people.
Okay, if you're in a crowd and they come up and like, whoa.
Yeah. Maybe you're on a
That's not bad. That's not a bad idea.
A date with some skank you met on Tinder or something, and then you want... You give the actor a wink, and they come over, and they're like, "Oh my God, are you on a date? That's too bad. Otherwise, I would ask you out right now, but I don't want to be rude." And then they walk away, and you're just like, "Yeah, I know that happens all the time."
Reminds me of now I'm gonna do it after I talked about it. Don Rickles, there it is. There's his name.
It's like a reverse Dirty Work situation, kind of.
Don Rickles had a great story about a similar type of thing where he was, because he was tight with Sinatra.
And
Sinatra.
Yeah.
And he's like on a date, and he said, "Yeah, Frank, if you could just come over to the table and say hi, just whatever, just a little something like, and like I think really make me look good in front of her and stuff and all this." And he's like, so then he said, Frank comes over, and he's like, "Yeah, not now, Frank, I'm busy," and like kind of blew him off like that, and I'm just like, such a funny story. But like Rickles is like one of the best, man. Like just
he was hilarious.
That way he was able to deliver, and that him and Dirty Work, like talking to Artie's belly and stuff, and talking to the ice cream and all that stuff. Like apparently a lot of that was like improvised. They said,
I think all of his stuff was improvised. I don't think like that guy probably wrote anything down.
But they just
naturally funny and went up on stage and made fun of people.
They had the scene, and they were like, they invited him for the day to play that character and just do what he does, and it just makes me laugh so hard that's what he improvised. Talking to Artie's belly and stuff, and hello, ice cream, having a good time in there.
Yeah, I got to rewatch that movie. It's got to be one of the top 10
good.
Like most underrated comedies.
I don't know how like Norm you can see laughing, but I don't know how they didn't how they didn't break the whole scene and stuff like.
They got Farley in there too.
Oh, yeah.
Street fighting man.
Yeah.
If you like pina colada.
And there's the Saigon whore that bit my nose off.
A lot of people haven't seen that movie. You ask most people, they'd say, "I never heard of it."
Yeah, it's kind of one of those cult classic ones for sure.
So good.
I love that line too when he's like, "Hey, you're wearing my shirt. That's my shirt, man." And he's like, "Oh, this one." And he like takes it off, and he's got like all that back hair and stuff. And he's like, "Oh no, I was talking to somebody that was different than you." So, for me, it was a lot of "Run, Ronnie, Run" is kind of one of those cult classics for me that like is really popular among my friends, but like nobody else has ever heard of it. And it's not like it seems like so. You guys ever watch that one?
I don't know what that is.
I just don't love David Cross for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't like. I never got into Mr. Show really.
Well, I never really was either. But Run, Ronnie, Run for whatever reason, just it's ridiculous. But like I don't know, there was a lot of really funny stuff. But I like all the other people too. Like I mean, it's got like every one of his comedy buddies in it. But
I knew about that one because I worked in a video store in high school and college for like 6 years or something.
Yeah.
Still to this day, the longest I've ever had any job.
There you go.
And thank you. And now they don't exist anymore. But that was one of the movies.
In there.
My family video just closed.
Yeah,
It was along with the Marco's Pizza, which would have probably been my chain to pick for favorite chain pizza.
There's one there's Marco's.
One in St. Peter's.
There's a Marco's Pizza in Wentzville now. They opened up, and I think they closed the Lake St. Louis family video finally after it was hanging on there for a long time. But
yeah.
I cut you off. Sorry, Jack. What were you saying?
He was just bragging about having a job for 6 years.
Oh, yeah. Run, Ronnie, Run was a big movie when I was working at the video store.
Yeah.
So there would be like stoners that come in and stuff and be like, dude, have you seen this movie? It's so funny. And so I finally watched it and I was like, still hate David Cross for some reason. I don't know why, but it was funny.
There's a lot of good lines in it, though. Like, it's just... So, Jimmy, if you haven't seen it, Ronnie is David Cross. He plays this kind of...
Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Okay.
He plays this character that keeps getting arrested on cops. Like...
Okay.
And then, like... So, he's just this, like, kind of white trash, kind of Joe Dirt type of mullet character.
Yeah.
And then Bob Odenkirk plays, like, this kind of Hollywood type of character that wants to like make him a star, and it's like, what if we just have a show where you get arrested all the time, like, and so like they make the whole show of him getting arrested on cops like that every episode and stuff. So anyway, and then like everything happens from that and stuff, but it's got like so many cameos from everybody's in it. Like it's just, but it was one of those movies that like went straight to DVD that like, and it's you watch it and you're like, every one of these people are like massive stars now. I mean, it's got whatever, Patton Oswalt and Brian Posehn, and it's got there's a party scene with like Trey Parker and Matt Stone from South Park, and John Stamos is in it, and like, I mean, just like whatever, everybody's got a cameo in it. And
is Jack Black in that movie?
Jack Black has a part.
Let's check it out.
That Arlie Ermy from Full Metal Jacket's in there for a couple scenes, and Jack plays it's like a random like off scene. It like doesn't have anything to do with the movie, but he's like singing the song, like it's like he's like an old chimney sweep type of character and stuff. And I don't know, it's just a lot of ridiculous stuff in it, but. So check it out. I'm sure you can find it in a dollar bin somewhere.
I'll check it out.
Yeah. So, well, I think that's. I think we covered everything, guys. Cosby, video stores,
Pizza.
We hit all
Pizza,
the good ones, man, for sure. But I definitely want you to go check out. If you're listening to this, go check out the Day at Night podcast, and. Be sure to follow along on the socials, click subscribe, and what's up next for the show? You said you got a new one with Molly coming out. You got some big guests in the works.
Yeah, we're going to try to have some more.
I think DiCaprio is going to be on.
Yeah, DiCaprio.
We've got DiCaprio booked, but we've had some cancelings.
We've had a couple problems with the bookings. But
yeah.
We're keeping our fingers crossed on him, though. And I don't know. I think the Black Keys are going to be on there. They're coming through town anyway. So.
Nelly might pop in.
Nelly could be on anytime because he's in St. Louis a lot. But so, just those kinds of people.
Yep.
Maybe Tom Cruise will be back.
Nice.
I don't know.
Yeah. You never know.
Returning guest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But thanks for having us on, man. It was fun.
Yeah, thank you guys. It was a real good time. And let's do it again sometime.
Yeah,
for sure.
All right. Thanks, guys. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
See ya.
Rock Paper Podcast. Rock Paper Podcast. Rock Paper Podcast.
Rock Paper Podcast.
Well, yeah, that was it.